Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are in this amazing world. My name is Donovan Jolly, and welcome everybody once again for another amazing video of DIY investing. Today we're going to be diving in and updating you guys in some new Chainlink analysis because the crypto markets have been exploding. As we all know, Chainlink has been one of the biggest drivers of value inside of the cryptocurrency markets, and I'm expecting a massive breakout to be happening very soon. It's important that we understand what's happening with Chainlink because ultimately Chainlink has led the way for the rest of the crypto markets to follow. This is one of the biggest catalysts for DeFi, and you guys are definitely not going to want to miss out on this action. If you're new and just finding this channel, always remember to do me a favor by leaving a like, comment, and subscribing to this channel for more updates. Always remember to click that notification bell so you don't miss out on any new videos like the one provided for you here. And guys, make sure you sign up and join to the fastest growing and the very best Discord community out there in cryptocurrency. My Discord server has over 17,000 members and it's growing so fast. If you want to congregate with the rest of my community, make sure you guys sign up by clicking inside the description of this video, and there you're going to find the invitation link to my server. On the Discord server, I also offer my VIP packages like my video course and signals. So if you guys ever want to copy every trade that I take, copy my entire long-term portfolio, as well as get private VIP videos that I only make for members inside of my Discord, then make sure you stay all the way to the end of this video because then I'm going to take a couple minutes to explain how you guys can get signed up, the pros of doing so, and what it's going to take to get you guys going today. One final thought, guys, is I have this amazing free study guide, so if you're a new guy getting into these markets and you don't really know what you're doing, I've spent a lot of time dedicating towards making this ebook a way for you guys to study it and understanding the ins and outs of trading and investing. This is something I really wish I would have had when I first got into these markets, and I know it's going to help you guys out a lot. So make sure you download that. Links are provided for you in the description. And with all that being said, guys, let's jump right into this amazing video today. Alrighty guys, so to start off this video, I wanted to quickly take a couple minutes to talk about Bitcoin because what we are seeing here is truly amazing. And this is what we've all been waiting for so long. All of us crypto investors, the people that have been supporting this channel, a lot of you guys have actually been here supporting my channel from the very beginning. Because as you guys know, I started my channel all the way back down in here during the bear market. It was about July, the very 1st of July, the end of June. And that's really where I started this channel. And so shout out to you guys if you've been supporting this long. Shout out for you guys if you've just been in crypto for this long. I know that there's a lot of people that FOMO bought throughout this final rally inside of Bitcoin. A lot of you guys probably bought really close to the top, whether it was XRP, whether it was Ethereum, whether it was some other altcoin in general, or whether it was Bitcoin itself. You know, a lot of people got in towards this top phase, and a lot of people have been bag holding a lot of losses. You know, as investors, it's kind of our part to just continue to invest dollar cost average, and this market cycle has been one of extreme chop. It's been very volatile. There's been major price swings on the upside as well as the downside, and in my opinion, this thing is really just barely beginning, and this is going to be the part of the cycle where all of the retail money starts to flood in here. Now, this is really exciting to understand because ultimately what we're seeing with XRP, what we're seeing with Ethereum, what we're seeing with some of these other altcoins is already a lot more optimism flooding into these markets. With the fact that XRP is pumping, I think that that's kind of this telltale sign that a lot of new money is flooding into these markets because ultimately XRP is the laggard. XRP always waits until the rest of the markets are starting to already take off, and then that's when it starts breaking out. And that's what we've seen. You know, XRP pumped like 3x, 4x, over 4x from the very lows of COVID. And so this is where we're actually starting to hit a different point of the cycle. You know, we've left the accumulation phase, which all took place over here, and we're starting to go into the parabolic phase. Because if we look at Bitcoin, guys, you know, we're just a few $100s behind all-time highs. And in fact, if I were to label the exact all-time high, and keep in mind I'm looking at the Coinbase chart, it takes us to about 19,874 approximately. So we're just right there, guys, about $500 until we hit this all-time high mark again. How crazy is that? So if you've maintained your bullish stance, you've maintained this long-term trend, and you've invested, you've ignored the FUD, pat yourself on the back for making it this far because there are so many people that haven't been able to do this. I was going through a lot of my old accounts that I used to follow on Twitter from the last cycle, And there is so many people that have completely given up on crypto and are no longer investing in it at all. A lot of accounts have completely disappeared. A lot of people completely gave up. And if you are still here holding through all of this, good on you, because this is ultimately where you are setting yourself up to make a lot of money. And so what we see here inside of Bitcoin, once again, is just this all-time high mark. And so what I really want to talk to you guys about today is kind of what we could expect here from this all-time high mark. Now I'm going to go through and remove all the drawing tools, and we're going to throw it back to the last cycle, because ultimately, when we were at this exact same point in the last cycle, we came up, we impulsed really, really hard, and we hit that all-time high, and then we had a really, really strong pullback, and that pullback was about 36%, right? So we had a 36% pullback once we actually interacted with this all-time high. Now, the thing I wanted to keep you guys aware of is the fact that where we're at right now inside of Bitcoin, I would not be the least bit surprised if we don't end up actually pulling back like we saw in the last cycle, because you guys got to understand, right here, when Bitcoin hit that all-time high mark, when this happened, China came out and announced that they were banning Bitcoin. And so that's the reason why we got this price drop. This was kind of one of those black swan events, right? Where you can't really predict it inside of the charts. Obviously, we knew that there was going to be a resistance here, so you could have taken profits at that level. But when a country like China, one of the biggest Bitcoin supporters out there, announces that they're banning Bitcoin, that's one of those events that you just simply can't plan for. And so, we could see something the same. However, I personally don't think that that's going to happen. I don't think that there's going to be some major FUD event. There very easily could, and so we should be aware of that. But there's so much more adoption these days that I just think that that's, not going to be quite as impactful on the price. Obviously, if America came out and said that they're banning Bitcoin, then it would create a lot of fear. But Bitcoin today is just absorbed by so many different countries, so many different people from all around the world are investing into this, and they know that this is the future. And so overall, I don't think that we're going to have that same type of issue. There was a lot more uncertainty back in. We just barely went through Mt. Gox's attack. At the time, pretty much the only people that use this were nerds and drug dealers, and so we just have to be aware of that. Now, what we can say is if we go back to the first original cycle, this was the all-time high right here, right? About $32. So this was the all-time high. In the last cycle, we didn't even pull back. We just broke straight up above, and we impulsed, very, very high before we ended up selling off. And so we could very easily be at this type of a point. Now, do I think that we're going to go this parabolic before we get a pullback? No, I really don't. I honestly think that we would end up breaking all-time highs, getting a little bit above, maybe somewhere between 22 to 25K, potentially even up to 28K, and then selling back down. And so we have all of these scenarios to understand here. And when we really decide to zoom out and look at the entire trend, we can say that, yes, it has sold off once we've reacted to this all-time high, but at the same time, there's been points where it hasn't. And so it's really a toss-up what's going to end up happening. But what I can say is just based off of the price structure alone, it looks to me like we're going to be hitting all-time highs at least, and the way it looks is that we're going to be breaking out of all-time highs. And so that's what I'm going to be watching out for. Just because we hit this all-time high level doesn't mean we magically have to sell off. Obviously, if a black swan event, some major news comes out, some major FUD, it could cause the price to correct short-term, but we're just going to have to see. So this is really what I wanted to share with you guys with Bitcoin. Just wanted to make sure that you guys are in the awareness of what I'm watching for, what has happened in prior cycles. Now let's actually dive into the Chainlink analysis, because I really want to talk to you guys about this, because this thing is setting up for a massive move coming. Alrighty guys, so here we are taking a look at Chainlink on the dollar. Now this to me guys has been one of my favorite investments. It's been one of my most profitable investments, and I've really done well with this coin, and I really expect that this is honestly the very beginning of things. Ultimately, if you look at any of the last coins that really had high returns in the last cycle, Dash, XMR, Ethereum, XRP, and some of those, if you look at those coins from the last cycle, a lot of them really didn't start making big impulses until Bitcoin broke all-time highs. Because ultimately, all of the optimism comes into altcoins once Bitcoin's broken all-time highs. And so where's Bitcoin at today? Well, it's roughly at the all-time high mark. What are we seeing with XRP? What have we been seeing with Ethereum? What have we been seeing with Chainlink, although Chainlink's been the outlier? These are all markets that have been breaking out. Whoever says that we're bearish right now is somebody that's not willing to adjust their bias. It's somebody that is too emotionally attached to specific outcomes that it's constantly clouding their vision. They can't see what's actually happening. And that's the thing that we have to understand here, guys. If we're not willing to adjust a bias, we're never going to be profitable inside the markets, because ultimately, by buying at the tail end of the correction, when everything's the most fearful, when there's the most FUD, when there's the most uncertainty, that's where you make the majority of your money. And so if you're constantly holding this bearish bias as prices are breaking out, as coins are breaking out of all resistances, flipping major resistance levels as support, and you're still holding that bearish bias, this shows a lack of maturity in your own respect emotionally, and this is what you have to analyze in order to be a profitable trader. Now, what we can say with Chainlink is Chainlink's been outperforming the majority of the market. It's been the leader of the market since 2019. Obviously, there can be other coins like Aave, other coins, some of these DeFi coins that have kind of picked up themselves, but ultimately it was Chainlink that started this bull run. And that's the thing we have to understand. Down here, in about the turn of the new year, you know, Bitcoin started rallying good, but Chainlink really outperformed Bitcoin inside of that time. And so I've been a really big Chainlink investor for a couple different reasons. Now, what I like about this, now as you guys can see, we're getting this nice build up on this curve. So this is really where it was just support. This was accumulation. And then we started kind of rallying up, and we kind of got this curve here, the first higher high, the breakout of the previous all-time high, chopped around here for a bit, and then we've really gone parabolic since then. And we can see that the trend is just getting more and more parabolic. And in my opinion, we really haven't seen anything close to a blow-off top. I mean, a lot of people tried to call this a blow-off top, and it was a short-term top, and we did correct 60%. But ultimately, this is just the first little move as we are going parabolic. And if you look at any of the coins from the last cycle, a lot of them did this. A lot of them went vertical, sold off really sharply, and a lot of people were trying to call tops. A lot of people were explaining that they were going to keep going down. And this was really the beginning of that entire bull cycle. And guys, the majority of these coins going into price discovery, the majority of their profits are going to be made as Bitcoin is breaking all-time highs. And so the fact that Chainlink is already breaking out this high and Bitcoin still hasn't even broke its all-time high yet, this is a sure sign that there is a lot of value inside of this market. There's a lot of people that are accumulating Chainlink, and we got to be aware of this. We got to understand that if there's a cryptocurrency and it's been outperforming, outsurpassing the majority of the market since all the way back in 2019, there is a reason for that. There's a lot of value here. And I don't need to get into the fundamentals of Chainlink for you guys to understand that, because I'm a chart guy. I look at the charts and I can see where the value is going. I can see which cryptocurrencies are outperforming. And what we can see with Chainlink is a crypto that has been the outlier, just like Ethereum was back in 2017, which is actually interesting. So I had one of my buddies come over, shout out to Crypto Mike. He came over and he mentioned that when he first heard about Chainlink, he went to a private club, and this private club was just full of all of these rich people, right? And the only coin that any of them were invested in was Chainlink. And this was all the way back when it was less than $1. And the thing that he said that they kept telling him was to buy Chainlink. It's the next Ethereum. And so even though Chainlink's completely different than what Ethereum is, their point was that Chainlink is going to perform and be an outlier in this cycle just like Ethereum was. And these are people that know the ins and outs of cryptocurrencies because they're filthy rich. If you're really rich, you are going to have the ins to any market, and you're going to be able to communicate with the richest people, and the richest people make the most money because they're smart. They're ahead of the curve. Otherwise, they wouldn't be so rich. And so if you have rich people that are explaining this stuff, explaining all the way back at the very beginning of this, before we'd even seen Chainlink outperform, that Chainlink was the next Ethereum as far as how it's going to perform in this cycle, you do not ignore that. And so obviously I didn't get in all the way back down in here, but I accumulated a lot sub $3 levels, and I accumulated a lot at about $3. Even just under $4, about $3.70, I accumulated a significant amount. And so I'm mainly in hodl mode for Chainlink, right? Now, what I wanted to share with you guys about today is if we drop to a log scale, I wanted to kind of map out where I think we're going to be headed. Because ultimately, all we're experiencing right now is a boatload of accumulation. And we have to be aware of that so that we can continue to hold this trend. Because ultimately, there is a lot of people out there that were bullish on Chainlink. There was a lot of people that really agreed and resonated with the long-term idea of what Chainlink was aiming to accomplish. But these people still ended up selling too early. And this is the very, very precipice of all of this, guys. What we can see is this type of action right here where we just slowly ground, and this was more of a stitching, right? Where price really doesn't move. It kind of just goes sideways, but it's just stitching in these little candles. This is what happens when prices are grinding on a trend line. And this is what we saw right here. What ended up happening was this sharp impulse, right? And what we can see here is pretty much the same thing. You know, Chainlink has been in this real choppy action, just chopping back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But you notice that we're making higher highs. We're consistently going up in value. This is us doing the exact same thing as happened right here before we get a strong impulse. We're just stitching our way on this trend line. And so when I look at this chart, I'm honestly just waiting for the exact same thing to play out once again. And when this plays out, we're going to be looking for a pretty big rise inside of Chainlink. And I really do believe that things are going to get really parabolic quickly. You know, ultimately, I think that the targets for Chainlink are going to be $50 to $100 in this next impulse. And depending on how crazy it gets, because ultimately, if Bitcoin breaks all-time highs and there's just a ton of new money that starts flooding into these cryptos, Chainlink could even make a bigger step. And we could just throw it back to what happened to Ethereum. If we go back and look at Ethereum, this is where it was right when Bitcoin broke all-time highs. So Bitcoin broke all-time highs right here. About January of 2017, this is the point where Bitcoin went into price discovery. And so we saw Ethereum outperform the majority of the market. This thing went so high, so quick, and a lot of people thought that that was the end. Ultimately, what happened is once Bitcoin broke all-time highs, we can see that this is the move that followed shortly after. And so if Chainlink is following this exact same correlation, then ultimately what should happen is the next really big impulse in the cycle, or the three-wave. Now, I'm not going to dive in and jump into a bunch of Elliott wave theory, but ultimately what ended up happening when Bitcoin broke out, Ethereum pulled 140x returns from that point to the very high of that move. And so if Chainlink were to do something similar, from where we're at today, 140x, which honestly, guys, I'm really not expecting 140x. So 140x is going to take us to about $2,000, $2,200. Do I think that that is possible? Anything is possible with cryptos because I watched what happened in the last cycle. A lot of people never believed that those cryptos would ever hit the prices that they did. And so am I going to sit here and say that it's impossible for Chainlink to hit these prices, although I don't expect it? Of course not, because I know that these cryptos will outperform, they will surprise, and you simply don't want to try and predict a top. You just want to hold that trend. Because ultimately, if Chainlink were to pull 140x, that takes us to over $2,000. I realize that there's a billion Chainlink in the total supply. I understand that there's going to be a lot of money that needs to come into these markets. But ultimately, guys, if Chainlink really is the plumbing of all of cryptocurrency for us to connect the centralized databases to the decentralized databases and share all of that data between, data is something that we've never really had a way to peg and value. Data, in my opinion, is truly the most important part of this digital revolution because it's ultimately our data that knows who we are. It's our data that knows anything about us, any type of work that we do. All of that type of stuff is all transmuted through data, through databases on the internet. And so if cryptocurrencies are really going to set out and do the things that they aim to do, then we should really think that Chainlink could potentially do something like we saw with Ethereum. Now, I'm not going to sit here and try and claim that it's going to go to $2,000. I've already told you guys that I don't sell based off of targets, prices. I sell based off of time frames, and this is the exact reason why. I have no idea how high these are going to go when they hit price discovery. I don't claim to be some genius that can perfectly predict every single price, because I'm not, and whoever says that they are false. I'm just a guy that understands that cryptos are very parabolic. I understand that I am not smart enough to predict the markets. I understand that I will make the majority of my money by sticking to the time frames, which ultimately means me holding until the end of 2021. And so this is really what I wanted to share with you guys, just mapping out Chainlink. Now, quickly, before we wrap the video, let's dive into the Bitcoin chart because I think the Bitcoin chart is looking exceptional as it stands. I think that we're getting really close to a breakout here. Now, what we see here is this long sustained uptrend. This is something that we have never seen inside of an altcoin before, because you guys got to understand, this is Chainlink against Bitcoin, right? So this is Chainlink outperforming Bitcoin, and it's done nothing but go parabolic. It's built this sustained uptrend, higher highs, higher lows, and it really just barely started going parabolic. And I expect that this trend is going to continue to play out as Bitcoin breaks all-time highs. And so what I want to point out to you guys is that there has never been an altcoin that has made an uptrend against Bitcoin like this before. Even if you look at Ethereum, it uptrended, it had a big explosion, but ultimately it still sold off significantly. And we've never seen one just build this type of a steady foundation. And that's why I was betting so strongly on Chainlink doing good, because ultimately, before this thing had even pumped, I started buying about right here. All I could see was a very early trend. And it was very obvious to me that this thing was just barely beginning. And so I bought, I accumulated, and then it was about at this point here that I accumulated the majority. I started buying a lot throughout here because I could see that this trend line was only getting steeper and steeper. And what happened was a strong blow off top that made me quite a bit of money. I ended up dollar cost averaging once again. I bought about the very bottom of this wick, so I'm about break even as far as the Bitcoin price goes. I bought in at $7.90 with Chainlink, and that was really going to be my last point in which I buy Chainlink, because ultimately this is the point of the cycle where we go uber parabolic. I don't need to be buying into that because my profit potentials are going to be dropping significantly, and my risk also increases. And so even though I'm sitting out from accumulating more Chainlink, you guys gotta understand that I bought a lot of Chainlink throughout this time, and I'm really just gonna be looking to hold this long term, because ultimately, because we've never seen an altcoin behave like this, I am betting on that trend to continue to play out, and I'm just going to ignore anything else. Ultimately, I think that this thing is setting up for a big explosion, and if you don't have some exposure to Chainlink, I think that you're severely going to be missing out. So anyways, guys, this is the video I had for you. Wanted to go through Chainlink. I wanted to give you guys my thoughts, perspectives, and really what I'm expecting long-term of Chainlink, because ultimately this is one of my favorite assets. I've made so much money off of this since 2020, and I'm really just looking forward to what the long-term holds. Now, guys, as we wrap up this video, I wanted to just let you know that if you really like my analysis, you support what I do on this channel, and you want to be able to get in at the ground floor on all of these signals, because you guys already know, all of the calls that I talk about on this channel perform well. I'd say at least 80% of them have done very well. Majority of them are profit, especially if you've been following my channel from all the way back when, right? If you guys like what I do here and you want to get in at the ground floor, make sure you guys sign up for my VIP stuff. Ultimately, the signals are going to be the thing that really helps you guys build a solid foundation, create a sound portfolio, and really follow every single move that I make over this next cycle. Because ultimately, a lot of people are going to get into these markets and they're going to make a lot of money. But if you don't know all of the technicalities about when to sell, when the time to take profits, how much profits to take, what to do with those profits, you're simply just going to end up most likely losing it back to the market. And this is what most everybody does. This is what I did in the last cycle. And I can speak from firsthand, guys. I've been wrecked so many times trying to figure out how to trade these cryptos that all of you new guys getting into these markets that watch my channel, you're going to do the same exact mistakes. Obviously, some of you guys might be able to learn from some of the mistakes that I've made, what I talk about on this channel, but ultimately by joining my VIP groups, you guys are going to be able to know exactly what to do. So you don't even have to stress about it. You can come in, get a portfolio, and then just hold the entire trend. And you guys can check back with me, ask me direct questions, message me, and I'm going to be here to help you guys throughout this entire cycle. You guys are going to get access to my entire long-term portfolio where over 80% of my trades are, where over 80% of my investments are. You're also going to get access to every single trade that I take aside from my long-term portfolio. On top of that, you're also going to get access to private VIP videos that I only make for members inside of my VIP's Discord. Now, one final thought. I offer two different packages. I offer my video course and I offer my signals. The video course teaches you guys technical analysis, and the signals allow you guys to copy all the trades and my portfolio. If you guys can only pick one, I always recommend going with the signals first, because the signals are going to be the way for you guys to come in, make a bunch of profit, and then ultimately, once you make a bunch of profit, if you want to go and pursue the course full time, you guys can do that as well. But I always recommend going with the signals first. So guys, links are provided for you in the description to sign up for my VIP stuff. One final thought is, if you don't want to sign up and purchase any of my VIP content, I do have a free ebook that's also linked inside the description. It's not going to cost you anything. Like I said, it's free. It's an amazing study guide that I really spent a lot of time dedicating towards helping new guys getting into these markets, because I know how intimidating it can be. I know how struggling and volatile these markets are. And so I wanted to give you guys somewhat of a guide so you guys could go through, read it. It's 38 pages long, and you guys are going to be able to have somewhat of a foundation and a guide to go off of. You're going to learn a bunch of terminology. You're going to understand the ins and outs of trading and investing. And then on top of that, I've also got a 10-part quiz packed in there so you guys can go through, read the contents of the ebook, quiz yourself so you retain all of that knowledge learned. Once again, links are provided for you in the description for my VIP or my ebook. And with all that being said, I will catch you in the next video. As always, peace out.